There are over 17,000 airports spread across the globe according to Airports Council International. Most of these airports follow a pretty standard pattern, at least one runway, gate, and terminal. Generally, an airport also has a road or some means of transit to get to the nearest town or city. Of course, you have your outliers like military airports or more remote airstrips or even weird airports like Gibraltar or Agatti Airport in India. But even these airports generally follow the pattern. They have a runway, at least one gate, and they even have Wikipedia pages. Enter Koru-Arken Airport, the subject of this video. Now, using the word airport to describe this facility is a bit of a stretch. It's a remote airstrip with some structures nearby. Definitely no gates, no terminals. This airport doesn't even have a road connecting it to the rest of the country. Some context. This airport is located right here, directly across the border of Niger and Libya. There is a Nigerian military outpost about 60 miles south, and a Libyan base 100 miles north. Although it's strange for an airport to cross an international border, this does happen occasionally, as can be seen with the endearingly named Piney Pine Creek Border Airport between the US and Canada. In order to understand what's strange about Koru-Arken, we have to learn a bit about ICAO codes. Just about every airport has one of these 4-character alphanumeric codes that's used to refer to the airport. Each country has a specific letter or set of letters that go at the beginning of the code. For example, Libya's airports all use the prefix HL, and so Tripoli International Airport uses the ICAO code HLLT. Niger uses the prefix DR, and all Nigerian airports have ICAO codes that start with DR. All except for one, Koru-Arken, which uses the code Z23L. Z is the code for airports registered to countries in mainland East Asia, specifically China, North Korea, and Mongolia. Now, China seems like a likely culprit here. They have been investing huge amounts of money into various infrastructure projects in Africa, including airports like Bole International in Ethiopia. However, Bole and other airports funded by China in Africa all use the correct country ICAO code, not Z. Additionally, there are no records of China funding anything like this in Niger, so if the Chinese government is responsible for this, they are certainly being very secretive about it. Another potential explanation is that America's Central Intelligence Agency has something to do with this airport. It would make sense if they used this as a drone facility. In 2018, they modified Dirkou Airport in northeastern Niger to better support drone capabilities. This can be seen from satellite imagery. Still, recent satellite images show very little activity or development in the area of Koru-Arken. Someone has to be cleaning sand off this runway, but unless the CIA is keeping this airstrip maintained as a backup, it seems unlikely that they have a role here. Now, as part of the Space Shuttle program, NASA designated emergency landing sites for the Space Shuttle all over the world, in case the spacecraft had to come down on another continent for some reason. You might think Koru-Arken could be related to that, but it's way too short. At only 9,600 feet, it is nowhere near the 4 miles required by the Space Shuttle to land, so I don't think that's it either. It's also unlikely that this airstrip was built for humanitarian purposes simply because there aren't any people here. Why would you build it so far away in the middle of the desert away from infrastructure or significant populations? The final possibility revolves around it being used for local military purposes. This is probably the most likely answer, but it still doesn't make a ton of sense. First of all, there are air bases controlled by both Libya and Niger within 100 miles of Koru-Arken. Why would either country need another airstrip so close to an existing one? Additionally, the Nigerian base in Madama is different from Koru-Arken in that it has an airstrip, but it doesn't have an ICAO code. This is likely because it's restricted to civilian or commercial entities, and so they can't take off or land there. Now, if Koru-Arken were a Nigerian military airstrip, it probably wouldn't have a code at all. The Libyan airbase, Al-Wig, does have a code, but it's HL57, which follows the naming conventions of a typical Libyan airport. Alright, so let's circle back to what we know. This is an airstrip straddling the border of Libya and Niger. Online sources claim it belongs to Niger, and these countries do have a history of border disputes, so it's a safe bet that this airport was placed here on purpose. There's little activity in the area other than military posts. This airport is a few kilometers from the main border crossing road, and there's no checkpoint directly on that road. However, structures next to the airstrip are likely what is referred to as Tumu, which is the main border checkpoint between the two nations. Now, This is not a regularly staffed operation, and Wikipedia claims that people often have to go through a checkpoint in the nearest Libyan village to the north. This is all the information that I could find about the area, and Google Earth scouting has led to little more than a few pixelated images of what I can only assume are military storage units and guard posts. Now, I am not the first person to be confused by this airport. Because it has an ICAO code, Kourou Arkane can be found and used in many flight simulators. There's a 2011 thread on a flight sim forum called avsim.com with people trying to figure out what exactly is going on here. One user named Anthony31 posted a link to a GPS track of an Italian man named Giannis who stopped by the airstrip on a motorcycle tour. I contacted Giannis asking what he knew about this place, but unfortunately he did not get back to me. I'll post a link to his photo album in the description. There are some photos that he took that could have potentially been taken at this airstrip, but I don't have permission to use them and I can't confirm anything. And that's kind of where I'm at. After all, this wouldn't be the weirdest airport on Earth if I had an explanation for you. I'm hoping that with enough manpower we can kind of get to the bottom of this enigma, and so if you have any information on Kourou Arkane, including if I'm mispronouncing it, I don't know because I can't look up the pronunciation anywhere, please leave a comment. I will be posting updates in the description of this video if we learn anything new. Other than that, thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.
This has been a Vince production.